to 10 different sequels that I need to read in 2023. Hello everyone, my name is Jenna, but you guys can call me Jen, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome to a little bit of an interesting video. I had originally planned to do sort of a take on the 22 books I wanted to read in 2022 video that I did last year, but then I kind of started grabbing books and I was like, I should read this year because I was going to do a version of it where I do 10 books I want to read in 2023, just because last year I really failed that 22 books I want to read in 2022 challenge that I had. I read only 12 or 13 of them, so I wanted to make sure that I did something a little bit more manageable this year for myself. But then I was gathering all the books that I wanted to read for that, and 90% of them were sequels. I have also just set up recently my Cop Pile sheet, version 4 Cop Pile sheet, which is G's newest version from Book Roast. If you guys didn't know, she makes a Cop Pile spreadsheet every time. I don't remember exactly what it stands for, but it's CAWPILE, and it's an acronym for all the things that you're gonna judge to rate a book system. She's got an amazing spreadsheet that she puts out every year. So I just got that, and this updated version has an extra sheet on it to track all of the series that you have started. I did that. I filled in all of the series that I have read or started in. I have over 180 series that I have read in. I don't remember the exact number of series that I have still ongoing, but it's 114 or something ridiculous. Let me pull up my Cop Pile sheet to just look at for a hot second here. So the series tracker, yes. Oh, and I just started another series the other day too, because that's me and that's what I do. I just finished reading The Marvelers by Danielle Clayton. So I'm gonna be adding that in here. So I now have 115 ongoing series out of 180 something, because I've DNF'd 42 of those series where I just have decided I'm not going to continue with them, and I finished 26. So, and this is series from when I was a kid too. I tried to at least bring in the big series that I read, like Hunger Games and Divergent and all that. So it does include all of that, but the fact that I've only finished 26 series out of the 180 plus series that I've read in my life, or that I've started, stressful. So I decided to, instead of doing just 10 random books that I want to read, I want to focus on 10 sequels that I need to get to this year, including some that I believe are finales and a couple duologies and a trilogy kind of a thing. Welcome to 10 different sequels that I need to read in 2023. All right, number one, we're going to talk about probably the most recent one that I've added to my shelves, and that is Bloodmarked by Tracy Deonn. I am currently rereading Legendborn to thus dive into Bloodmarked, so this one is going to be hopefully finished right away in January, because I absolutely adore Legendborn, and it is one of my favorite YAs I've ever read, and I am so excited to continue in this series. Legendborn follows our main character Bree, who is a grief-ridden teenager. She's about 16 years old, and at the beginning of the book she loses her mother in a very tragic car crash. One of the biggest things is that the last words she spoke to her mother were words of anger, and it was over this program that she was trying to be in at this university. After her mother's death, she decides to still go to the program, and the first night that she's there, she goes on to a party with all these different people and witnesses a magical attack, which then sweeps her into the world of Legendborn and Merlins and King Arthur and all this magical stuff. And it's this really highfalutin, secret society level, white people ruling in the South, that level of problems that she's dealing with. It's a whole lot, but I loved Legendborn so much, and rereading it is a joy. So I'm super excited to dive into Bloodmarked when I get to it, which is hopefully in the next couple of days. The next one is another YA fantasy that I believe is the conclusion. I cannot remember if there's a third one to this series or not, but it is Margaret Owen's The Faithless, or the Merciful Crow duology. I don't know if this is a duology or, oh, this just says gripping sequel. So maybe this is a trilogy? Couldn't tell you, but this is definitely the sequel to The Merciful Crow. This is The Faithless Hawk. I read The Merciful Crow a couple years ago now, and I absolutely loved it. It was a surprise 5-star for me. So good. It was one of the ones that I was like going into just being like, I'm probably not gonna like this very much, but I just want to read it for funsies. I adored it. The magic system was so neat, and I really liked the dynamics between the characters. Now, it has been a few years since I've read this. I don't remember a damn thing about it. This is probably going to be a reread and then read this one situation as well. So, which I don't mind. I'm in like a rereading era right now, so love that for me. But yes, this is definitely on my list because Margaret Owen, I read her book Little Thieves last year, which the sequel to that is coming out this year and I do plan on getting. I love her writing and I love the stories that she crafts. She's becoming a favorite author of mine. Like the 2 books that I read by her are 5 stars. So if this 3rd one ends up being also a 5 star, she's going to be a favorite author of mine. Solidified, which is amazing. So I'm intrigued to see if the sequel does hold up like that. But anyways, yes, The Faithless Hawk. Next up, I believe, is the last YA fantasy I have on this list. Yes. And that is Redemptor, which I know for sure is the final to the Raybearer duology, because there's only 2 books in it. This is the sequel and the final one in the duology. And just like Legendborn, I read Raybearer the same year that I read Legendborn. I absolutely adored it. The world was so colorful and rich and vibrant. I adore it. And I follow Jordan Nefeko, the author, on social media, and she's just got such fun content that comes out. She's such a cool person. Like, she's so quirky and neat and weird, and that's the kind of person that I love. So I adore following her on her journey and her writing journey. I'm so excited to get into Redemptor, but again, like the previous 2, this is going to be a reread to read situation because I don't remember anything about Raybearer, and it's been enough time. Like, I read it the same year that I did Legendborn, and I need to reread Legendborn to go into Bloodmarked because I don't remember anything. My book memory is just so bad. I'm like on the fence of starting a book bullet journal just so I can like note down things that happen in the books so that I can like not have to reread as many books. But rereading is also like one of my favorite things, I swear to God. But yes, so this is definitely on this list. I really enjoyed Raybearer when I did read it. But yes, so Raybearer, from what I remember, is about our main character Tarisai, who has been raised by this kind of almost tyrannical motherly figure called the Lady, who has bound Tarisai in this magical contract, essentially, where she agrees to infiltrate the like crown prince's friend group thing and then kill him. And that's kind of like the first 25% of the first book, and it kicks off from there, and it is one of the most enjoyable YA books I've ever read. I'm very intrigued to reread it to see if my opinions still stand, which I'm sure they will, and then finally dive into the sequel and finale to that duology. All right, now let's dive into my adult fantasy stuff that I have on this list. Let's do a couple more duology finishes because I have 2 here. So the first one is The World We Make by N.K. Jemisin. This is the conclusion to the Great Cities duology by N.K. Jemisin. The first one is The City We Became, which is one of my like favorite books of the year that I read that book in. And again, it's been a couple years. So, but I think I remember enough about that book that I can dive right into the sequel without needing to reread. But again, I don't have a very good memory. So who knows? But yes, this is a like sci-fi fantasy set in New York City, kind of like weird fantasy vibe with this like interplanar being trying to come in and destroy New York. It's great. First book, we follow the 5 boroughs. I finally know how many freaking boroughs there are in New York because I'm watching Dimension 20's Unsleeping City and the 6th borough is not. So there are 5 boroughs in New York and each one of them are personified in a being. And then there's one person who is all of New York put together. They're like tasked with, not even tasked, they just have to save New York City from this outside threat that's trying to infiltrate New York City. It's very weird, it's very kooky. I had no idea what was going on for most of it, but I knew it's one of those books. It's like Gideon the Ninth. You go in and you're like, I know I don't know anything, but by the end I will know something, and that's satisfying to me. So I'm so excited to see where that goes in the sequel because I honestly don't know where it could go because the first book stands pretty well on its own. So excited about this. Next, we have Hollow Empire by Sam Hawk, which is the conclusion, I think. Is it the conclusion? Again, this is I don't know if this is the conclusion or just a sequel. I honestly don't know. But it is the sequel to City of Lies, which I have here, and I read earlier last year, and I really, really liked. It has really interesting disability rep in both our main characters, because it follows two siblings who are the children of the poisoner, or like the person who tests poisons in the castle. And the daughter, who was going to be the like poisoner heir, couldn't be the poisoner heir because she deals with like some chronic illnesses that make her her body like incapable of handling that role. So it went to her brother, who is on the spectrum. And so it follows the two of them, who are constantly underestimated and like dealing with this plot that's going on in this palace and kingdom. And I really enjoyed it. So I have the sequel that I really would like to get to this year as well. It's about like the poisoners in the castle. It's a really interesting point of view because it's not like the typical like royalty point of view that we get in a lot of fantasies. This is like the behind the scenes, the people who are running around doing the dirty work for the royals and that kind of stuff. Terry Brooks says on the front here, a tale of poisoners, deceit, and treachery that will surely keep readers entranced. And it really did. It was one of the first books that I read of 2022, City of Lies, and I ate it up. Now we're going into, for sure, I know that these are series. Sequels to series. So actually, before we do that, we're going to go into one that is a conclusion to a trilogy that I have been meaning to get to and did get 200 pages into last year, but didn't continue. So now I have to reread those 200 pages because I don't remember them. But that is The Dragon of Ginseng by K.S. Veloso, which is the sequel and the finale to Chronicles of the Bitch Queen, which you can see the first two books here on my shelf, which I absolutely love. The Wolf of Oren-Yaro and the Icosar Falcon. I need to get my life together and actually finish books. It's an issue that I've had since I was a kid. As you can tell by the fact that I've only finished officially 26 series of the ones that I've actually started out of my 180 plus some that I've read in my lifetime. I just don't like finishing book series. I have such an issue with it. And when I was a kid, I would avoid the last books of series like a plague. In high school, read the first 4 Percy Jackson books and then did not read the last Olympian. And I didn't want to, not have that in my I'm like, no, it's still living inside me, So it happens with TV shows too. I just don't like finishing things because then it means it's over. And I really don't like things being over. So this is probably why I haven't yet committed to getting through this. But this year, if I don't, somebody come through the screen and slap me, please, because I love The Wolf of Oren-Yaro. It is one of my favorite fantasy books, and this trilogy is amazing. But The Wolf of Oren-Yaro and the Chronicles of the Bitch Queen follow Queen Tal, and in the first book, she gets a letter from her estranged husband to meet with him in this like neighboring kingdom that doesn't really respect her as queen. And she's queen of this like really brutal empire, and her father was this really big warlord kind of a thing. And there's, a lot of racialized stereotypes about her people and this kind of stuff. And she goes and then she ends up getting tricked, blackmailed, betrayed, and then lost in the city. And she ends up being imprisoned and has to go on the run and is all the time just trying to get back to her son, who she's left behind in the castle, right? Because that's where he was safe. And she, throughout this entire trilogy, is meeting new people and unearthing more like political plots against her and her kingdom. And it's just so good. Queen Tal, one of my favorite characters of all time. Y'all know how much I love sword-wielding badass women in fantasy novels. I love it so much, and Queen Tal is feral, and I need to finish this trilogy. I really do. It's unreal. The next ones are straight up sequels. So next one here is another one where I'm gonna have to reread book number 1 to get to it, because I want to give book number 1 another chance, because I didn't love it the first time I read it, but I know it's a book that I should really love. And that is R.F. Kuang's The Poppy War. And then this is the sequel, The Dragon Republic. So this is book number 2 to that intense trilogy. And I would put book number 3 on here as well. I'm just gonna grab all 3 of them because I need to read all of these again, but I need to get to this sequel. So to do that, I need to reread number 1 and read the entire trilogy. That is my goal, is to read this whole trilogy in a video for you guys this year, because I kept saying I was going to do it last year and I didn't get to them. So this year, at some point, I'm going to be torturing myself by reading this entire series in one go, because I know this is a series that I'm going to really love. I read R.F. Kuang's Babel this past year, adored it. I know, like when I read The Poppy War, it was one of those things I was just like, okay, I feel like I should love this, and I feel like I read it at the wrong time because I really didn't like this. So I'm gonna give it another shot and then just keep going. I don't even know how to explain the series. It's about a young orphan girl named Rin who gets into this really elite school, and it's very militaristic and it follows her life, and it's pulls on East Asian history and the second Sino-Japanese war. She's brutal, she's dark, but I will be getting to these. So that counts as one. That counts as one. The next one is The Kingdom of Copper by S.A. Chakraborty, which is the sequel to The City of Brass. I really enjoyed The City of Brass. It was one of The City of Brass is an interesting book though, because I tried to read that so many times in 2020, so much so that it became an issue, because in 2020, if you guys haven't been around for a while, I broke my hand in 2020. This one right here. I broke this hand filming the beginning of a video. And that video was a bookshelf hunt sort of thing to pick a book that I was going to read. And that was the book that was picked. So I was filming the intro to that so that I could start reading The City of Brass. And then I broke my hand filming that intro. My mom had workout equipment, punched it, boxer fractured, whole thing. It took me a really long time to be able to actually read this book because it kept making me feel physically ill whenever I picked it up, just because of its connotation to me breaking my hand. But when I did and I actually finished it, it was very good, and I really would like to continue with this trilogy. So I don't even really remember what it's about, but it follows Nari and Dara and in the city of Jin and all this kind of stuff. It also follows someone else who's like a prince of this Devabad city. It's got magic. It's a lot of political stuff. I just know, I've heard that it gets better with every book. So that's why I have Kingdom of Copper on this list, and I would really like to read it. Anyways, all right, we got two more. So two more epic fantasy sequels. So number one is Robin Hobbs, The Royal Assassin. This is a book that I have previously gotten a little of the ways through. I am probably one of the only people on the internet who had a really difficult time with the farcier first book, which is Assassin's Apprentice. I had to look at it, I don't remember the title. I liked it. By the end, I was like, yeah, okay, that's pretty good. And I know Robin Hobbs' books just keep getting better because she's so beloved, and she's got a super sprawling series of books, right, that all tie together. So I know that when I get to the Mad Ship series, I'm gonna be super in love with it. And I know she's got a series about dragons, so I really want to get to that one. But being who I am, I need to read these in order because there is an order to them. If there wasn't an order, I wouldn't have to read them in order. But because who I am, I need to read them in order because someone gave me an order and I need to follow the order. This is the second one to the Farseer trilogy. I would really like to get through this so that I can get to the third and then move on to the Mad Ship trilogy, which is something that I think I'm gonna like a lot more than this one, because The Assassin's Apprentice was really slow for me. It was one of those books that it wasn't grabbing me. It was kind of memoir, autobiographical-ish. I don't know, it just had a weird feeling to it, but the ending did save it for me. So I need to actually get to this one, but I did read a little bit of it at some point. I think it was when I was moving. I got 138 pages in. I literally stopped in the middle of a chapter, so that's when you know I wasn't super into it, but I just need to try again, and I need to get through this so that I can experience the mastery that is Robin Hobb that everybody on the internet talks about. So, and then the last sequel that I would love to get to this year that I own physically on my TBR. There's so many more. Also, I was looking at my shelves and I'm like, there's so many more that I could talk about, but just these 10. Ruin by John Gwynne. I love John Gwynne. This is a John Gwynne stan channel at this point. I love him so much. I love his writing. I love his worlds. These are some of my favorite books ever. So I have previously read Shadow of the Gods. That was my very first John Gwynne. And then I read Malice because I ordered this entire box set of The Faithful and the Fallen, which I never do. But because I read The Shadow of the Gods and loved it so much, I was like, I need all of his work. So I ordered this. And I read Malice, loved it. And then I ended up reading half, not even half, 200 pages of Valor. And then I read The Hunger of the Gods when it came in. And then I finished Valor this past Christmas. So I need to read the sequel faster than I did Valor because I started reading Valor in April of last year. And I love these books. I love them so much. They're so good. This is epic fantasy at its finest. I don't even know how I can explain the series because there's so much going on in it. It's classic epic fantasy. There's a coming of age story woven into it with Corbin, who is arguably our main character, and all the people that are surrounding him. And then we also get like narratives of people from the other side of this war and this like possible god war that's about to happen. We don't actually know if it's gonna happen, but there are signs of it happening in the first 2 books, and people are starting to become aware of this. And it's also happening at the same time as like regular human wars. And so, you know, it's a lot of brutality, and John Gwynne knows how to write a damn fight scene. But I love the characters in these books. I love them so much. I think my favorite is Corbin, and I think Cohen is my favorite, like my second favorite. She's just, because of Valor, like she's become a favorite of mine. I love her so much. But yes, we're getting to book 3, and it would be a great and perfect world if I could get to book 4 and finish the series too. But anyways, my friends, there are so many other series and sequels that I could put on this list, and I could just keep talking, but those are 10 that I want to focus on this year and getting to the sequels of, because I'm very bad at that. I'm very bad at that, as is evidenced by my 180 plus ongoing series that I've started in my life and 115 ongoing series that I've got currently. Maybe I need to be more brutal and tell myself that I just need to decide to stop reading some sequels or some series and just decide that I'm never going to go back to them. But there are a lot of them that in the past few years that I've been on like the book internet that have just, I've read like the first book of, and then like the second books aren't out yet because I'm in like getting fresh new publishing news, and debuts and new stories are just so interesting and so enticing that you gotta get them, you know? Oh God. Let me know down below if you have any plans this year to also focus on sequels like I am and like finishing series like I am, or if you have read any of these books that I talked about today, or their sequels or their series, and which one I should focus on first besides Bloodmarked, because I'm actually focusing on that one now. Which one of these that I should really give a try, or if you want to see me do specific reading vlogs for these, please let me know as well. Yes, my friends, thank you so much for watching. I will catch you in another video very, very soon. Stay kind and keep on reading.